welcome here to the second part of our CDR session tonight. And I can't remember any CDR session with two so different guests as we have today. I mean, Sadar has been around forever, and Ry, welcome, is a new talent.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having
me. We thought it would be interesting to feature also somebody who is quite recent on the music scene, but has gone a long way. A way that is maybe a bit unusual. We know people being on indie labels for ages and then at some point get picked up on some majors, and you're doing it the other way around. But before we get more into your music career, maybe a few words about you, where you come from, what you do.
Yeah, hello everybody. It's beautiful to be here. Sidar, it's an honor to share the stage with such a foundational cornerstone of music. And I found myself in Berlin by accident a few years ago, so I'm really new to the community and especially to house and techno. But I grew up in Australia on an island, and I've been based between California and somewhere in Europe the last 10 years. And it's been a really beautiful experience for me to call Berlin home the last couple of years, and to feel like this is a part of my existence and a part of my growth as an artist. So
in summertime, at least.
Only in the summer. As soon as it snows, I'm fucking out of here.
Yeah, so you already mentioned you're also based in LA, and that's where you moved when?
I grew up in a very small town in Australia on an island, and I left to travel Central America. And I was 17, and I was just surfing in Costa Rica, and someone saw me playing there and invited me to LA. I didn't want to go there. I didn't like the idea of LA. I still don't, but I'm there some of the year.
How come you say it?
The concept of what we believe LA is, the external facade of what LA is versus the artistic community in LA is the beautiful cornerstone of that community. And it's really amazing,
compared to your hometown, LA is huge. How did you find your way there?
It was an accident. Like I said, I was in...
No, but when you were there, how did you get into the... Working for a label like Jive, which is a very big one, as Ry Cuming, what brought you there?
I didn't do very well. I didn't wear shoes when I first got to LA until somebody told me I had to put on shoes, and I didn't wear a shirt. I really grew up a very pure spirit, and I didn't know what music industry meant. I had no idea what industry meant. I grew up so far removed from these ideas that when somebody said, you should do this or you should do that, I thought they were telling me because they were my friends, and that was my community that I'd always had. So I had a difficult beginning in music because there was a lot of people that wanted something out of me for themselves in a way. And I was very pure and innocent, and I followed all of that, wanting to achieve playing music because I love making art. All I wanted to do was surf, make art, and connect with community, hang with friends. So it took me a while until I understood that you have to really carve your path and be incredibly pure, incredibly powerful and raw and honest in what you're making.
So that would you sum up as a bad experience?
Nothing can be seen as a bad experience in that way. It's a journey. It's a stepping stone to understanding yourself in a much clearer light. So it's a mirror.
But it led you to change your name as an artist, did you?
Yeah. There was a sense of wanting to be unknown. I mean, everything that I did was connected to community by accident. Howling, Berlin, the Acid, the projects that I've been making have all been things that I did for myself and didn't even choose to release. And then they just bled into the community by accident. So it was a very pure form, and I loved that anonymity for a long time.
Yeah, talking about releases, I mean, you released one album so far, the second a month ago.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, the Acid album just came out a month ago. Frank and I are putting out a record soon, and I'm making a record for Ry at the moment. So I haven't really released that much music yet either, compared to what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for those who don't know you, we should also explain that you're releasing music on 3 different names. The Ry is your solo, your main, let's say, it's you.
Yeah,
basically.
Ry is a very raw, honest interpretation of my music.
Then we got the project you do with Frank, who's in the audience tonight.
Frank. Where are you, Frank?
Hello, Frank. Oh,
he's hiding.
He's hiding, okay. That's the Howling?
Yeah, Frank and I renamed ourselves. We had a tumultuous beginning, calling ourselves Ry/Frank Wiedemann, all these different names, and then we decided to just call ourselves Howling.
I mean, Howling, there is this reference to this famous poem, but it could also be a wolf howling. What's the howling?
It definitely comes from a sense of being a lone wolf in myself, and that being the beginning character of that song. And then where I was living in California was buried up in the mountains, and I was driving back. I have an old Cadillac, and I was driving back up through these mountains in California, and I saw these like eyes in the forest, and I called Frank. I'm like, Frank, why don't we just call our project Howling? It's like howling. It just makes sense. It's this calling that we've been involved in. So. And
how and where did you meet, actually? I mean,
Frank and I.
You as a singer-songwriter working with techno people.
I fucking hate that term, by the way. I hate the term singer-songwriter.
I know.
I hate it.
Somebody told me about that.
Yeah, you can spend more time on a computer than somebody else, producing something, and then at the end you still get called a singer-songwriter. But it's part of that growth for me is, everything I produce myself in collaboration with Frank. We produce Howling. The Acid is produced between the 3 of us. Ry has been all produced by myself. So.
Yeah, but let's get back to Frank. Where did you meet him?
Frank and I met over Skype. There's a long-distance relationship. We met through a friend of ours, and he'd come to LA, and we shared a pizza at a beautiful spot down in Venice. That was it. And then we started sending each other music, I think, Frank. We tried to make a terrible disco track over Skype for the fun of it. And then we started sending each other music. And I'd just done a demo in the studio, and I sent it to Frank. And a day later, I think he sent me back a version of it, and it was Howling. And it was one take of that song that I've ever recorded, and it was a live take with a guitar and a vocal. And I'd never had a producer, I'd never worked with somebody and them send me back something that I didn't want to pull apart, that I didn't want to tear apart and throw in the trash. And Frank had done everything and nothing more, and it was so beautiful to feel that on a first meeting. And the thing that I most loved about this idea of Berlin and of house music and of electronic community in terms of being able to go and take that track and play it in a club the next night and not have to have a record label approve it, not having to have it mastered, not having to go through this process where you're living and dying. It's a fresh thing. It's palpable. You can touch it. So Frank's playing it in communities, and he's calling me saying, look, people love this song. We should put it out.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, most probably know the song, but we should hear it a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I can play a little bit of the one that I guess born me into Berlin. I'll do the really technical turn up. You were plush and dolly, babe. You had me howling cold. I fell into your skin on the night you let me under your sin. You had me howling. You had me howling. Ooh, blush. Ooh, blush. Yeah, you know that song, I think.
Yeah, that was really a smash on the dance floor, I think 2012?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
And after that, you toured with this project. You did I remember last year, I think you did a whole summer.
Well, first Frank had to teach me what deep house music was.
Excuse me?
Frank had to teach me what deep house music was first. I had no idea, really. I didn't really have any understanding or inkling. So coming to Berlin for me was a really beautiful learning curve in terms of understanding this beautiful community that's been so strong for, 30 years, almost 40 years, in terms of, techno and house music, and getting to come in and become a part of that in Panorama Bar, and to be accidentally in with my brothers at Innovisions was a very special thing.
Yeah, but that must be a completely different audience, a completely different concert situation for you. If you so far have been playing your live gigs, and I mean, I don't want to mention Ry Cuming's, it's a completely different music. I heard it the other day and I was like, really? I was surprised because I only knew the new things. How was that experience in a dark club with people maybe on a different state of consciousness?
What are you trying to say? Dark club, what else?
I don't know. It's like, how does it feel?
Talking about Berghain. The freedom was beautiful. Actually, everything that I discovered in this world has been beautiful. People elevating themselves within a community context to dance. It's the modern version of church, yeah? It's the modern version of ceremony, coming together to party, quote unquote. If it's done right and the music's good, that's the key. Then you have this beautiful space for energy and understanding in your minds and bodies to lift. So for me, that sense of freedom and capacity has been incredible. And to get to share, I guess, a sense of intimacy, What I try to make is very raw and very honest. So to get to share that intimacy in a club environment is a very rare thing.
Yeah, it's almost impossible, I would think.
Yeah, it's hard to whisper in a club, But somehow the idea of howling and the other stuff that Frank and I have been doing it's almost like whisper. It's somebody singing in your ear that close, and that's really something that I wanted to bring, and something that I really think is beautiful to get to transition between the world that I grew up in and folk and kind of minimal, guitar, piano, vocal stuff, and bring that understanding into a world of clubs where you're open, we've all been there. I'm sure you're at a club and the moment's perfect, and your soul is so open for something to come in and change you. And to feel like howling or moments of songs get to do that. It's the most beautiful, cherished gift you can have as an artist, to open somebody.
Yeah, but still, if we listen to your music, and maybe the short bit we just heard may not be representative because you have the beats, you have Frank's part in there. But if we listen to the other music you do, it's quite a melancholic touch. That's why I think there's this kind of contradiction between the partying crowd out there in a club and you with a very, melancholic and maybe inside of yourself. How do you bring this together?
As I said, for me it's about being very raw. And so the most honest parts of myself that maybe I don't share is a sense of quiet and darkness, or a lone wolf, where I need to be experiencing certain things for me to get to write within that state, and to be able to deliver that and share that is that's my process of dealing with that. That's my process of communicating that. And the human experience for me is I should be looking at these beautiful faces instead of Adelana all the time. The human experience is what I really love. It's this beautiful idea of getting to touch what you're experiencing on a deep level, knowing that everybody experiences the same things. Getting to be that mirror for each other, that's the role of an artist, Getting to open that and show each other what we're feeling and show each other what we're moving through. To be an artist and to bare yourself and be naked like that, and to do that in many different contexts, where it's a club or it's a church, it doesn't matter.
What about the Acid? How long have you been doing this? And that's the latest release you brought out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone's aware of the project called the Acid that I've been doing, and I met this guy Adam Freeland years ago. He was a DJ, and I'd just done Howling with Frank, and I'd come back from Berlin to California, and I ran into my friend Adam, and he said, "Oh man, I love this track. You know, it's my favorite track. It's this guy's called because nobody knows how to pronounce." And he goes, "It's this track called Howling, man. I've been playing it every day." And I'm standing right there next to him thinking that he knows that that's the track that I've done with Frank. And he's talking to me. We just drove around Italy. It's been this amazing time. Anyway, and I just looked at him. I said, "Yeah, that's the music I've been making. You know, I've stepped into your world lately." And he'd taken 2 years off making music to do a lot of spiritual work and growth in his life. And so we'd come to a closer point, and we started making music together, and accidentally and anonymously.
Not per Skype.
No, not through Skype. Actually, in my little place in Topanga, in the mountain in California. And we recorded things in our phones, and we put it into the computer, and we started building around it. And then we had a record very, very quickly.
How do you start? I mean, is it you start with the music, you start with the lyrics? What's the idea? How do you work?
For me, it's so much about melody and whatever catches my heart and my ears. Very often with Frank, or Adam, or people that I'm working with, it's very much about the intuitive process. I don't question, and if I'm working with someone that's questioning everything I'm doing, then I'm not working with the right people, you know? It's beautiful to have a challenge of each other once there's the security and safety and trust built. But the process has to be fluid. It can't be stop, start, stop, start. There has to be a fluidness to get the whole expression out without being, the idea becoming made a martyr of. It's like, oh, well, we tried to get there, but we couldn't get there because it wasn't good enough. If there wasn't the openness to explore it, then you can never know. So it has to start with openness and freedom.
Still, I'm a bit shocked. I mean, we hear CDR. People bring the music to listen to it on this beautiful sound system, and you record your music with your iPhone.
Well, no, not always.
How does it work then at the end? I mean, how much effort do you do for engineering and mixing and whatever?
So much of that.
Are you involved in that, or?
Yeah, very heavily involved in everything. I believe that mixing is part of the process. You know, as you're writing a record, you're mixing it. If you love something really loud, that might have been the reason that you started writing it, or the reason you were attracted to it. To turn that down and make that, in balance with the mix might be doing it injustice. You have to mix as you move along and trust yourself. There's so many people that say, "Oh, but I've been mixing for 20 years and this is right or this is wrong." And it doesn't matter. What matters is how it feels to you, and it doesn't matter if it's recorded on tape, on an iPhone. I completely agree with CDR in terms of analog. I very much do. And ironically, at the end of everything, we run it through tape. After it's been digitalized for a long time, we run it back through tape to give it that warmth and the sine and a curve that does this. But it's so much about trusting your heart in terms of the art you're making and not questioning it, and showing that art to community and wider audience before you have industry and too many people involved in the curation and cutting down of your process. You have to refine your process in a sense of freedom first, so that you're giving an honest take of who you are as an artist and a person to people. And then if people accept it, if the community accepts it, I don't think of fans, I think of community. And if your community accepts what you're doing, you can do that forever, and you can change, and your community will change with you. If you're trying to prove something to fans or keep people happy or make an industry, you're going to forever have to upkeep this idea of who you might be rather than trust who you are.
Yeah, I mean, you told me that you also do like the art direction for the visual part of the projects you do, and we might maybe, instead of listen to the Acid, maybe have a look.
Yeah, let's watch. There's a video, Basic Instinct, I think, yeah? Yes. So I directed this and did this with some friends in LA, an amazing group of women called Wife that are wonderful artists and dear friends. And I believe in collaborating with your friends. It's the most amazing thing you could do. Use your friends as your art community.
Tender wishful, quiet and numb, tired and out, just speechless, speechless, tired and low. Coming up for air, coming up for air, coming up for air, coming up for air, coming up for
Dankeschön.
Any questions about the video? You know, you can ask questions. You just raise the hand, and we have a microphone.
There's a question.
There's 1-2 microphone.
I just want to ask, how did you get the inspiration for the video? Because the pictures are so amazing, and
I really believe, as I said before, in this idea of following through with intuition. And this song was made on the second day in the studio. Every day in the studio, we would go in with an idea, write, record, mix one song. So first day it was Animal, second day Basic Instinct, third day Fame. One song a day. And during this song, we had a friend of ours in Australia is a beautiful photographer. And this is what I was talking about in terms of artistic community. He has this series called Fallen. His name's Toby Burrows. And it was about dancers. And there's beautiful shots of these amazing bodies suspended in space. And I looked at the guys, we were in the studio, and I said, this would be so incredible with a video of these beautiful forms floating through space, this moving idea of these images. And so, fast forward 8 months, you know, when suddenly a label, lots of people had started to find the acid organically. Like, we put it up on SoundCloud, we didn't tell anybody, it was a very organic thing. And we turn around and we're being asked to make a music video for it. So the first thing we do is decide to go back to that first seed of thought. And then it's about building the team and the community and finding the people that can help you eventualize your vision and your idea.
What are they throwing?
Yeah, I mean, it's all improvised, you know, a lot of it. We have these three, as I said, if you go and watch Wife, they have a piece online called The Grey Ones, which there's some of the first performance art dance guys using, you know, beautiful projection mapping and stuff. So if you check out Grey Ones by Wife, it's amazing. So it's the girls from Wife, and they came, and all we had was, we're sitting there, we've got a Phantom camera, a beautiful camera that shoots 1,500 frames a second, and we've got the girls made up in their own design. And so we're like, you know, let's spray some water in the air, let's get dirt, let's get chalk, let's get flour in their hands. And it's so much about that freedom, not being so set on an idea. So they all had flour in their hands and they're just letting it go as they move.
So yeah, and I mean, that looked very good on a video, but how's your setup live? You're on tour with the Acid right now. You played here a few weeks ago, and how do you perform that?
Well, I have a hate of playing computers and singing over the top. I really don't think that's music justice, you know. And so when we when we started to do this, ironically, there are a lot of people now combining electronic with singing and live stuff. But when we began, there wasn't many people. And Frank and I were pioneering a world that felt like for us we had to look at old Massive Attack videos and Radiohead and Bjork videos to try and find out how to amalgamate electronic music into a live context. And the Acid, we made a rule not to have anything playing back. So we divvied up every sound on that. We sampled every sound out, and we send it out to MIDI or we send it out to hardware, so that everything that's happening, if there's an arpeggio, it's getting played through an analog synth. Everything happening is completely live. And then we have a...
How many are you on stage?
There's 4 of us. Mm-hmm. And then we have a live interactive video mapping, like kind of a intuitive live show of the visuals too. We're starting to use... we have a guy called Gianni with us from Italy. I don't know if anyone's seen the Acid show. Does anyone seen that show live? One person, that's good news. No, I'm kidding. It's okay. We use this beautiful technology that a friend of ours has started to make, which I hope is the future of live touring, where whatever we're doing on stage is changing our visuals from the projectors. So either the contrast is changing, or the image is changing, or the color, something's changing when we hit an instrument. So MIDI or hardware is queuing out to the front desk, and it's intuitively changing as we perform. Mm-hmm. Is this stuff exciting to you guys, what I'm saying, by the way? I just want to check, because I don't want to go down the wrong path.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about your project with Frank, with Howling and the Acid, and those are more or less, the album is released. The next one coming up is probably your own one, and the Ry X album. And that's also the biggest, probably the biggest hit you've done so far. And most probably know it, but we should have a listen maybe to Berlin.
All that fun and all that snow, sober night and barren on my mind. Tell me I'm not going home, and I'll stop waiting by the phone.
Talking of intimacy, yeah, that's not just that you're naked, or kind of, but also the sound of the music is completely different now. We still have these vocals, and we also have these lyrics. I mean, I looked them up, I tried to read them, and I was like, what the heck? What is this song about?
Yeah, this song's about my first experience in Berlin, you know. First
Doesn't sound really funny, though.
No, it wasn't funny. The first time I ever came here, I'd just come from Australia, and it was this beautiful summer, and I flew into Berlin, and it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it was one of those winters where it was minus 20 every day, you know, for the whole time I was here. So I was stuck inside a house with a love that wasn't going to be a love, and a lot of self-introspection. I was doing I grew up doing a lot of yoga and meditation. My mom's been a yoga teacher for a long time. So I was here, like doing yoga on a floor, not drinking, not doing drugs, you know, and trying to work out why the fuck I was in Berlin, basically, you know. And that song came, and this is another example. This version, what you hear, it sounds like shit, you know, in terms of what is sonically palpable, what people think sounds good. The sonic range that recording takes up is so small. But it's the energy that was caught on that take. That's all that matters. This is the only time I've ever recorded that song. It was a live take. I was playing guitar and singing. Yeah, it's like this moment, you know, so all of the energy of what that expression was is caught. It's like a painting, it's caught there once. I didn't need to do it again, and then we just put it out, you know.
Yeah, I mean, probably it's also this energy that brought these people to put it on an ad. How you feel about that? I mean, it's such a personal situation you experience, a very personal moment, and then you see it promoting some product.
Yeah, I really have a really hard time with it, you know. There's a really interesting balance between what is commercialism, what is industry, and what is sharing of art, you know. For me, I released Berlin in this EP through Sweden on vinyl only, so no one could ever find it, because I didn't want anybody to find it, maybe. And it started to leak its way through Europe in this very organic underground community. It was very special. You know, we sold out of the vinyl and we were all kind of high-fiving each other and thinking, wow, this is amazing. You know, we sold 500 vinyl, this is incredible. And then it kept moving and growing, and then this opportunity came. And there's a guy called Jose Gonzalez, does everyone know? And he did the Heartbeats thing, and it was a Sony commercial with the balls bouncing down the street. So Sony came to us and said, we're doing this again. And the only reason that I said yes is because that song is so much more memorable than the printers that they sold from that commercial. So it was Jose Gonzalez using Sony instead of the other way around to share art and music with the world. And these people, I don't own a TV. I've never owned a TV. I don't watch TV. So for me, this is an audience I would never connect to. So it was a beautiful way for me to contact and reach out to a community that I would have no way otherwise getting to. And yeah, it's been special in that way.
So is that what drives you? That what brings you on keeping doing this music, the connection to the community?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a relationship, you know, to make art and have it received and judged at the same time. How brutal, you know, to get undressed every time you release something into the world. Every time you guys are like, if you're making art, which I hope you all are, and please, if you're not, go and make some art. But, you know, you're walking out and you're showing it for your friends, you know, the next day, and it's like you're getting naked playing them this track or showing them this photograph. You're revealing part of yourself. But how beautiful that we get to do that with each other.
But you're revealing kind of a pain. Do you have any happy songs?
No. Fuck happiness, man. No.
Oh, come on.
Don't cheer for that. For me, I have a few ways to let go of my darkness. My darkness is strong, and I have a few ways to let go of it. And you know, one is the sea, which is what I've always known. Surfing and connecting with the ocean. 2 is, you know, meditation, yoga, and 3 is music. So music has been taking up so much of my life lately that I have to keep expressing it. And if it seems melancholy, it's like we said today, melancholia is happiness and sadness at the same time. And that to me is the most beautiful experience. To be happy is amazing, but how can you know what true happiness is until you've seen it against what darkness and pain is, you know? So how beautiful to get to know those extremes.
Any questions out of the audience?
How do you, as an artist, creator, overcome your conflicts to create and achieve that rawness and authenticity that you're talking about?
I mean, I think if you're living as an artist, then you're living like I was saying, naked. So you're, of course, you're vulnerable, and of course, your insecurities come out all the time. I'm having a hard time because now there are eyes on me in terms of what I'm releasing into the world. So it changes every time. It's like being in a relationship with a lover or your family. There's always that mirrorship. And so it just changes face. There was a beautiful quote that I heard in terms of growing practice, which is, if something is not pulling the rug out from underneath you, if something is not forcing you to grow, then you should, move somewhere else or change something until there is something challenging you. So to stand there as an artist and make work is the challenge in itself. And then to share that with people and have them decide whether it's good or not, it's so brutal in a way. They're approving your innermost parts of yourself. So insecurity, yes. In terms of the process, there has to be an element of fearlessness, or an element of an artist's role. The difference maybe between a good artist and somebody that's wanting to be a good artist is the discipline to take a good idea and turn it into a wonderful reality, a authentic reality, to take something from a seed or the idea of itself and move it all the way as far as you possibly can. That's your role as an artist, to move it as far as you can towards that point, and then open your palm and share it. Because we can all say in this room, we can all say, hey, I got this great idea about a video, these floating girls, it's going to be fucking great, who's with me? And people go, yeah, cool, how are we going to do it? And you go, okay. So now I've got to do the work. So I've got to go back, and I've got to think about this, and I've got to research, and I've got to know art from its basis. I've got to know the artists I love. I've got to reference things. I've got to have a community of artists that I love and trust. And if you don't have a community of artists, start making the art yourselves, and the artists and your community will find you. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Keep doing it. That's the thing. Keep doing it.
Good evening. I'm just interested in relation to the earlier interview, how you speak a lot about purity and being a purist, how you feel about the medium of capturing music and how important it is, the quality of that capture, and what's important in moving forward into a digital age where music is free from object.
Speaking of which, I'll close the computer. I used to be such a purist. I wanted to do everything on tape. And I wanted to, I used to make films on 16mm and 8mm and only shoot analog. And I wanted to create everything in that state. And then I realized that I was actually limiting myself simply because I had an idea of what something was. And I think what is most important, as I said before, is there are many different ways to create something beautiful. And often we start judging the process rather than the result. If I told you the song Berlin, and according to the way it's been received in the community, it's incredible. That song cost me $50 to make. The reason is because it's all that we had. We had one microphone. I had one guitar. We had one amplifier. And that's how we did it. So with limitation comes complete freedom too. Use what you have, whatever it is. Often, I think in the tech world too, now I know, I'm very blessed. I get to walk into the Innovision studio and there's racks of analog gear and I could plug in and do whatever I want. I have beautiful community of friends to access, but still, all of that's irrelevant unless the singular idea is good. If you hear something and you love it, pull out your iPhone and record it. If that's the most true recording, put that into a computer and build around it. You have to have a sense of artisanship. You can't release an iPhone recording. But if the iPhone recording is a part of the whole, and that creates the seed from which everything else grows, use it. That's your seed, and then water it with everything else that you know. Don't worry about whether you think it's good enough. If it feels good. Don't worry about if it's recorded on a cheap microphone, on a shitty computer, on GarageBand, on Ableton, on Pro Tools. People talk, man, Ableton squashes the sound of the vocals. I fucking agree, but if Ableton's the only program you got there at that moment, and it feels right, record it into Ableton. Don't wait until you've got the new version of Pro Tools. Don't wait until you've got the new toy, the new better thing. That's not an artist's role. an artist's role is to use what they have to create something beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, to sum up, what's next?
Too much, man. So the Acid album just came out, which is really exciting. I'm very humbled to have that out. As I said, Frank and I are just finishing mixing and mastering our record, and then Ry I'm on tour through most of the rest of the year, and then next year I imagine I'll be out here spending a lot of time and collaborating and experiencing and growing.
So you're going to do more collaborations, so you don't stick to the 3 you got.
You know, I mean, it's if we don't move, we die. You know, in a certain sense of what art is. Frank and I, our relationship is changing all the time. So when we go into the studio, it's not the same. And if, you know, somebody else is going to come in and we, like we were saying before, that process, instead of thinking, oh no, this person's not a member of Frank and I's group. If somebody's there with us and it feels good, let's make art together and let's release it if it's great. You know, that's so far been the model. I haven't tried to cerebralize everything too much. Make and release, make and release. Create.
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 Yeah. Good. Thanks
Seems anticlimactic.
for listening.
Take care of each other. Peace and love. Thanks for having me.